An officer-involved shooting here just north of downtown early this morning leaves one person hurt, what authorities and neighbors are telling us.
And we have some fog out there, not though in St. Charles or St. Louis for the most part, but dense fog advisory in effect for many of our western counties. We're tracking a strong cold front for Monday.
First on Fox, we are following a developing story out of North St. Louis. One person is injured after an officer-involved shooting. That's where we find Chris Renier, who's been following the story all morning. Good morning, Chris. What can you tell us about this investigation?
Kelly, good morning once again to you. We are at 13th and Clinton here in Old North St. Louis, immediately north of downtown. Take a look behind me. Lots of police still here, including Police Chief John Hayden. He has not spoken yet, but we have learned from police they are confirming an officer-involved shooting at this location early this morning, just after 5 o'clock. St. Louis City Police shooting somebody, that officer not hurt. We understand that Chief Hayden will be speaking here relatively soon. Let's take a look at the video we captured out here from earlier as I lay out what we know. This is in the area of the Bristol Place townhomes, again, 13th and Clinton, immediately north of downtown in Old North St. Louis. Don't know exactly what led to the shooting, but neighbors tell us they heard 6 or so gunshots in this area here between 12th and 13th on Clinton, then heard the man who was shot screaming for help, and a St. Louis police officer basically over him. That man taken to an area hospital. Again, the officer not hurt. We do not have a condition on the person who was shot by the city officer. Again, we're being told that Chief Hayden should speak here shortly. We will try and bring that to you when it happens. But again, Kelly, what we know for fact confirmed, St. Louis City police officer involved in a shooting here this morning in Old North St. Louis just after 5 o'clock, shooting someone, that officer not hurt. For now, live just north of downtown, Chris Renier, Fox News.
Thank you, Chris, for that report. We'll be looking forward to that news conference. Overland Police investigating a road rage turned shooting. The incident unfolding just before 5 Saturday near Overland Plaza on Page Avenue and I-170. That's where police say someone in a gold-colored SUV fired into another vehicle before taking off. One person was hit, but police say his injuries are not life-threatening. Some Kirkwood firefighters will be honored today for their bravery. Back in December, they rescued 2 women from a car that went into a retention pond in Kirkwood near Vianney High School. The driver of that vehicle had a medical emergency, and that's how the car ended up in the pond. Sadly, both women died after rescues pulled them from their car. A Kirkwood police officer and a firefighter was treated for minor injuries from the rescue. Now their bravery will be honored today at 1. It takes place at the Von Cotard Center at Mercy Hospital on New Ballas Road.
This year's Walk for Cancer survivors.
All right, see you guys this afternoon.
Tommy, be safe above all.
Captain Tommy Buchanan walking to raise awareness of firefighter cancer. This weekend, he walked a total of 14 miles, something he does every year. On Saturday, he marched those miles to 5 different Monarch fire hoses in honor of Monarch's captain, Kenny Gonhart, who died from cancer. And for the next 2 weeks, kids with a chance to keep warm while in style. This is part of Brenda Warner's annual warm-up coat drive in style. Yesterday, she kicked it off with a fashion show of the latest trends in winter apparel at the St. Louis Galleria. Starting Friday through November 7th, the warm-up encourages people to donate new and gently used winter coats who will be passed out to those in need in our area. The National Council of Negro Women Gateway Metropolitan Section honored 23 outstanding St. Louis area men and women for their community service. Fox News' Marsha Williams was honored, along with Ezekiel Elliott's mother, Dawn Elliott, Brian K. Mitchell, from fitness trainer from BKM Boot Camp, Missouri Chief Justice George Draper, among others. The event was held at Norwood Hills Country Club. The Mistress of Ceremony, Evangelist Mary Tillman. It was packed with hundreds of well-wishers. Also in attendance, myself, Fox News' Lisa Martine, Kimberly Young, and our weekend morning producer, Taeja Smith. How about some chili and barbecue ribs? Today it's the 19th annual Millstadt Cook-Off. Members of the Millstadt Optimistic Club were guests of Fox 2 News in the morning this week. $20 gets you all you can eat from teams competing in 4 cook-off categories from ribs, chili, pork steaks, and snoots. A Fox 2 News team will also participate. They're competing in ribs. Proceeds benefit the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and the Children's Dyslexia Center. The event runs from noon to 5 today. And downtown will be filled with an array of costumes and people ready to go as part of Go St. Louis 12th Annual Halloween Race. The Halloween fun starts at 7 a.m. with Trick or Treat 5K. That course will line not only water, but it will have candy along the stops. There's also a 10K and half marathon that starts a half hour later. But the fun doesn't stop once the race is over. There's also a Trick or Treat village to the filled up with treats and local businesses and organizations. We're now going to go in, if we can, take that live picture there where Chief John Hayden is going to update us on this.
Chief, we are live
shooting
on Fox 2. What do we know at this point?
So this is, we're here because of a officer-involved shooting. This all started in the area of North Florissant and St. Louis Avenue just a little bit after 5 a.m. this morning. It was a two-man car. The officers wanted to pull a car over for a traffic violation in that area. That car sped away. This was a black sedan being driven by an African-American male. They sped in this direction, so this would have been a southeasterly direction from that location. About a block south from here, there was a traffic accident, single car accident, that the person driving the car ran into some obstruction and then jumped out of the car. The officers pulled around, is why we end up here in the 1200 block of Clinton. The person had his hand in his pocket. He refused to take his hand out. The officer attempted to tase the person unsuccessfully, at which time the suspect pulled his weapon from his pocket and pointed at the officer, and the officer fired several times into the suspect's torso. The suspect has since been pronounced deceased at Area Hospital. Recovered at the scene was the suspect's weapon, was a loaded 9mm, and then also recovered at the scene of the accident. It was noticed that there were 2 different types of suspected narcotics inside the vehicle. The Force Investigative Unit is handling the incident. So I'll repeat it. We were a little bit after 5 a.m. in the area of North Florissant and St. Louis Avenue. The officers wanted to conduct a traffic stop on a black sedan or dark colored sedan. That vehicle sped away from the officers. They followed. They traveled in a southeasterly direction to about a block south from here, where where the car runs into some type of obstruction. The person jumps out of the car, and then they end up, which is like I said, it's a block south of here. They end up in this block just behind me, in the 1200 block of Clinton. The person, as the officers confront this individual, the person refuses to take their hand out of their pocket. The officer attempts to tase the suspect unsuccessfully. The suspect then pulls his weapon from his pants pocket, points it at the officer, and the officer in turn fires several shots into the torso of the suspect. The suspect is conveyed to an area hospital where he has since been pronounced deceased. Recovered at the scene was a pistol, a loaded 9mm pistol, and then at the accident scene, which is again about a block south of here, there were 2 different types of suspected narcotics inside of that vehicle.
Chief, it looks like they were in close contact. Was there a struggle going on at this point? Because he's trying to tase them. I'm assuming they're pretty close together here.
Yeah, there was some close contact. Not as sure exactly how close, but there was close contact. Okay,
and were the 2 officers involved in this?
There were 2 officers involved. The officer that actually did the shooting has been on, is 31 years old. He's been on 13 years. The partner officer is 28 years old. He's been on 3 years.
And the person who had pulled out the gun there and who is now deceased did not actually fire any shots, correct? Just pointed his gun at the officers?
It is our understanding that the person did not fire his weapon.
Chief, your thoughts on this? This is another one of these situations where it appears you have officers trying to do their job to keep the city safe coming under assault by potential suspects.
Yeah, well, it's a dangerous job every day, and the officers are trained to deal with the dangers that they face with.
It sounds like he was trying to tase him to subdue him at that point. Is that kind of how this unfolds?
Well, certainly. So the person just ran from an accident from what they know at that point, and refused to remove his hand from his pocket. Of course, that's a very dangerous situation for any officer, and they started on the force escalation. Of course, it escalated into the shooting.
Chief, it looks like the scene's maybe on the other side of these buildings where we are.
And we're going to continue to follow that story. The chief there confirming that one person was shot and killed in this officer-involved shooting. It appears that the officer was doing a routine traffic stop, and the suspect took off, got out of the vehicle, pulled a weapon on the officer. The officer, fearing for his life, fired back and shot and killed that suspect. We will continue to follow that story. One person dead in an officer-involved shooting there. We're now going to get a check-in with our weather. Jamie Satori there.
Yeah, well, we have a pretty quiet morning. We have some fog out there to the west of St. Louis, but St. Louis, the metro itself, is doing okay. But we are tracking a strong system back to our west. So let's go ahead and check out what it looks from our Powers Insurance camera. Looking toward the south, you can see a lot of cloud cover, but overall not going to be too bad. We're going to keep it dry. Where we have that fog, though, keep in mind a little bit of mist or drizzle possible. You may need those windshield wipers a little bit, but again, that's west of us. Mild temps, strong cold front bringing rain and storms impacting the morning commute and the bus stop potentially tomorrow if they aren't through in time for the bus stop. And then it's going to be cooler behind this front. Temperatures by tomorrow afternoon in the low to maybe mid 60s, and Tuesday is also going to be pretty cool out there. Hidden Valley, this is looking toward the north and east. This tends to be one of the spots where we'll see some fog. Don't see any out there right now. That dense fog advisory, though, is in effect for many of our western counties. It does not include St. Charles and St. Louis counties, but you can see where visibility is this shading of white. That's where we're starting to see, that's where we've had some of that dense fog. Also in Salem, visibility down to 0.3 of a mile, but much of the area is okay. Eureka Brookdale Farms, a little hint of that fog, but visibility okay. 56 north wind at 3 miles an hour. That wind will gradually be shifting around out of the south and east later on. Temps back to the west in the 40s. Most of us, though, in the mid 50s. Due to that cloud cover, clouds act like a blanket, keeping the heat closer to the ground or at the surface and keeping those temperatures up. So what we have for today, a lot of clouds out there, maybe hopefully some sunshine or some breaks in that cloud cover by this afternoon. Maybe. Then overnight tonight into tomorrow, we're watching this system. It's going to be moving eastward across the region into our westernmost counties, probably between 2 and 4 a.m. And then it's going to continue east out ahead of this front. Some of these storms could be on the stronger side. So there's the question with that. Heavy rain, lightning, stronger wind gusts will be possible. Then they roll through behind the system. A few more showers could build in, and then we'll eventually see some clearing. It will be a matter of when we see that clearing, though, but Futurecast is showing that by the afternoon. That's a little optimistic, but hopefully we will see that sunshine return. So severe storm potential. This is for early tomorrow morning with that line of storms I just showed you out ahead of that front. We could have some isolated strong to severe storms, especially southwest of the metro. The higher threat is just south of the viewing area, though, so hopefully it stays south of us. So this morning, dense fog, milder though this morning than the past few mornings, up to 64 by noon, up to about 70 this afternoon. Southeast wind 5 to 10, and then overnight tonight, again, temps will be milder, down to 60, but we'll have rain and storms roll through. Your extended forecast tomorrow, we're looking at windy conditions behind that front. Tuesday, a high of only 62. Wednesday, a bit of a warm up, then another system Thursday into Friday, and that will bring some highs in the 50s and overnight lows in the 30s by the end of the week and the beginning of the weekend. We'll be right back.
Moscow Mills, a lot of events taking place today, and thanks for waking up with us this morning. We're going to get a check-in on our weather with Jamie Travers, who's here with us to tell us what we can expect.
Yeah, you know, visibility, they're looking fine. So I think it's really improving across the region. We had some areas of dense fog earlier this morning. We still have a few areas.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few, though. Things are improving. If you're heading towards central Missouri, toward Columbia or Rolla, that's where you'll encounter some of that fog. Here, temps are in the 50s, mid 50s, so we're milder than yesterday. Low clouds, hard to see on this satellite view, but we have a lot of cloud cover out there. We have a front that will be moving in for tomorrow morning. But for today, it's going to stay pretty mild this afternoon. Still a lot of clouds, though, even by 3 p.m. Hopefully some sunshine in the mix. We keep it dry, though, but big changes come this time tomorrow. We will have that coming up.
All right, thank you, Jamie. We are continuing to following developing story out of Old North St. Louis. So we now know the suspect in the officer-involved shooting has died. That's where we're going to check in with Fox 2's Chris Renier, who's been following the story all morning. Chris, what can you tell us? So the latest update there.
Kelly, good morning once again to you. A lot more details now have been filled in by St. Louis Police Chief John Hayden. Let me step out and show you behind me here the car that is being put on that city tow truck. That is the suspect's car in this entire incident. The suspect dead after he was shot by St. Louis police following an altercation on the next block up from us on 13th and Clinton. We are at 12th and Madison as police get ready to tow this car away, obviously part of their investigation. Let me show you some video from earlier and lay this all out for you. Chief Hayden telling us this all started with an attempted traffic stop not far from here at St. Louis and North Florissant a little after 5 in the morning. The chief saying that two officers in a city patrol unit tried to pull over a car for a traffic stop. That car took off, according to the chief. The officers did not chase it, but in their efforts to try and track down where that car might have went, they found it here at 12th and Madison after it crashed into some poles at this location. At that point, we understand that the officers tried to get to this vehicle. A suspect got out of the vehicle, ran through the Bristol Place townhomes here. He was confronted by an officer on the other side. That officer tried to tase him, and when that did not work, the chief said that the suspect had his hands in his pocket, would not take them out, eventually pulled out a gun. That is when one of the officers fired several shots, that suspect being transported to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. We were able to speak with Chief Hayden a little earlier. Here is some of what he told us about those moments when this shooting happened. Take a listen.
The person had his hand in his pocket. He refused to take his hand out. The officer attempted to tase the person unsuccessfully, at which time the suspect pulled his weapon from his pocket and pointed at the officer, and the officer fired several times into the suspect's torso. The suspect has since been pronounced deceased at Area Hospital.
And here is another look at that suspect's vehicle as it gets ready to be towed away. Chief Hayden telling us that police have recovered a 9mm handgun at the scene here, along with 2 different kinds of suspected narcotics from that car that is now being towed away. As far as the officer involved with the shooting, Chief Hayden telling us that that officer is 31 years old with some 13 years on the force. Neither of the officers in the unit were hurt in all of this. The Force Investigative Unit now investigating. We can show you right down here. These are the poles that we believe this car ran through just before it stopped in this parking lot here. And then moments after that is when all of this violence happened. So again, Kelly, a suspect dead after he was shot by St. Louis police here this morning following a traffic stop that turned into something much more violent. No names released yet in terms of the suspect in this case. We do know he was a male in his 20s. More details when we get them from St. Louis City Police. For now, live in Old North St. Louis, immediately north of downtown. Chris Renier, Fox 2 News.
Thank you, Chris, for that report. A St. Louis civil rights pioneer was laid to rest this weekend. Norman Say died last month at the age of 87. Say is known for participating in demonstrations in 1963, which paved the way for African Americans to get jobs at city businesses. He was fined and jailed for his role in the protests. He also played a big role in the successful fight to get Dr. Martin Luther King birth declared a national holiday. The NAACP of East St. Louis branch will hold its 64th annual Freedom Fund dinner tonight. The keynote speaker is civil rights leader Congressman John Lewis. I'm honored to serve as one of the mistresses of ceremonies. The event will be held at the Marriott in downtown St. Louis. Doors open at 5:30 and the event starts at 6 p.m. Last night, the Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists honored African American journalists in downtown St. Louis at a banquet. Among the honorees include longtime Channel 9 host Ruth Ezell and 2 retired St. Louis Post-Dispatch journalists. The River Des Peres and streams and creeks that flow into it are much cleaner now. Rocky Madden reports on the efforts of hundreds of volunteers during the annual River Des Peres Trash Bash.
Volunteers arrived early at Wilmore Park. Some came equipped with the tools they need to pick up the trash.
I feel strongly about cleaning up our earth. This is the only one we have, so we just kind of have to make sure we're keeping it clean and making sure that we have good things to pass along to future generations.
And the trash bash can save wildlife.
Small items like plastic bags can get wrapped around animals like turtles and ducks.
For some folks, it's a family affair, a teaching moment for the kids.
It's important for them to learn to, clean up their environment, take care of everything, take care of nature, and it teaches them how to be better people.
They fill up a lot of these bags. Last year, they hauled in 10 tons of trash. About a third of that was recycled.
It's just fun to make the world a better place.
And they do find some unusual things.
We found a prosthetic leg with a shoe on it. We found a samurai sword a couple years ago. We find old cell phones.
Along the River des Peres in South City, Rocky Madden, Fox 2 News.
Kids with type 1 diabetes can still get on the Halloween fun. The St. Louis College of Pharmacy has partnered with JDRF, Missouri, and Southern Illinois chapter to provide a candy-free Halloween fun. The event encourages children with a chronic condition to dress in costume and enjoy Halloween-themed games, crafts, a bounce house, and of course, T1D friendly snacks and drinks. The 13th annual event takes place at the College of Pharmacy Quad on Parkview Place today at 1 p.m. Okay, the St. Louis Blues stopped the losing trend.
Canadians set up the power play. Into Domi. Back in front. And Wheel jams it in. Nothing. Good passing in Wheel.
Just ahead in sports, the losing continues for the Blues, and each time it's been at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens.
And there's a look from our Golden Oak Lending rooftop camera there, where we have low cloud cover and fog across the region. Temps, though, are milder than yesterday. We're in the mid-50s, and we're tracking a cold front, bringing rain for tomorrow. We'll have a look at Futurecast hour by hour for your Monday morning coming up.